Hey, I'm Rosie G, your host here on PlayMyMusic.fm, where we unleash the unknown, unsigned, and unheard. Today, we're hanging out with legendary A&R executive Michael Alago. Thank you for coming and talking with us today. And you and I hung out at some of the biggest rock clubs here in New York, CBGB's, Max's Kansas City,
Great Gildersleeves.
and of course, our native Brooklyn, L'Amour's.
Oh, yeah.
What was the music scene like back then?
Oh, the music scene was very vibrant. It was varied. There were so many types of music coming out back then. And of course, we were out every night. I'd be at L'Amour. I'd come into the city on the double R train and get to the Bowery, where, from CB's, you could walk to Gildersleeves. And when you were adventurous, you'd walk up the Bowery to Park Avenue and 17th to Max's Kansas City. But it was a very vibrant scene, and all types of artists, young artists, were coming out of that scene at that time.
When was that light bulb moment where you said, I've got to be doing this now?
Yeah, well, I knew from a very young age, 14, 15, I wanted to be in the music business. I had no idea what that meant. So I watched Dick Clark's American Bandstand. I watched Don Cornelius's Soul Train, and it just filled me up. And I thought, I got to do something. But I didn't know what it was until, as we fast forward, 19 years old, I go to School of Visual Arts. And I work at a pharmacy. And I saw a building on East 11th Street that was Casa Galicia back in the day.
I used to go
It was
there.
closed. It said, there was a sign on the door that said, Video Club Opening. I went inside. There was a man in the balcony. It felt like the Wizard of Oz. And he said, Kid, what can I do for you? And I said, I want a job.
And this was Jerry Brandt.
This was Jerry Brandt, the infamous Jerry Brandt, who gave me my start in the music business. In the 60s, Jerry started the Electric Circus on St. Mark's Place. He came out of the William Morris Agency mailroom, just like David Geffen. And at some point, he discovered and signed to Elektra Carly Simon, the Voices of East Harlem. I believe Jerry worked with Sam Cooke back then, and the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he was their agent at the William Morris Agency.
From there, you went to Elektra Records, and all of a sudden, everything changed when you got that demo tape of an unknown heavy metal rock band called Metallica.
Yeah, I just started my job at Elektra. It's 1983, and I don't remember exactly where I got this homemade cassette. It was a cassette going around the underground metal scene. At that point in time, I was friends with John and Marcia Zazula, who ran Megaforce Records. I was doing a demo with one of their acts, Raven. Gave them $5,000. I got back a fabulous demo, but I heard Metallica. And their distribution was kind of spotty, and I thought, this band Metallica, who made this record Kill 'Em All, blew my mind.
So you had to go see them live.
I went to see them in San Francisco at the Stone. It was amazing. The charisma, the sweat that came off the stage, I knew that I wanted these people in my life. They were doing something so different. I had no idea what I was going to tell the folks at Elektra. So I gave Lars my business card, and I let it be. He called me months later, said, we're coming to New York, we're playing Roseland. At that point, I told John and Marcia, I don't want to sign Raven, I want to sign Metallica, and I've been talking to them. It made the label, Megaforce, furious. They wanted to sue me personally. They wanted to sue Elektra. They wanted to sue Time Warner. But, we made a deal that was very advantageous to them. They were going to make money off of the first 2 albums in perpetuity, and that quiets people down real fast.
And that is now history.
Yeah, the signing, my signing of Metallica is part of music history. It changed the face of rock and roll. It changed the face of heavy metal. That after summer of '84, when I signed them, everybody wanted their own Metallica. Now, there were extraordinary acts out there.
Oh, there's a
One
list.
Metallica.
That's true.
And people can talk shit about them 35 years later, that they should have made those first 3 records because those were the records. But a band like Metallica and that history, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And you can't please everybody. But they have just made a record called Hardwired to Self-Destruct. It's 2017 and they're playing stadiums still. What a blessing.
Yes, and
and
what Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
The Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. And they were just extraordinary from day one. They had their own point of view. They knew they wanted to get it out there. And I was the person at Elektra with major distribution to get it out there for them.
Also, while you were at Elektra, you signed the legendary Nina Simone.
I signed Nina Simone.
How did you convince her
Yeah.
to record what would end up being her last fully recorded full album?
Yeah. Love. A lot of white roses and champagne. I really, I'm being funny now, but I did always bring her white roses and champagne. I'd always loved Nina Simone. Nobody cared about that she was not on a label anymore. She hadn't made a record in years. She was troublesome. She was troubled. I didn't care about any of that. I knew about that raw talent that she had from the day she made I Love You Porgy in 1959 and everything else she did, whether it was a George Harrison song or a Bob Dylan song, it was exquisite. And she always made those songs her own. And that's why I wanted to be involved with her, other than that I loved her so much and I wanted to be a show-off that I signed her. She just finally said yes because she felt the love that I had for her. And I think she knew she could trust me. And whatever I said I was going to do for her, I would do, and I did. We made an album called A Single Woman, and we made it with a 50-piece orchestra. We made it at Chick Corea's recording studio on the West Coast, and it's a beautiful record. It's a somber record. Her father had just passed. It was 1992. My dad had just passed. We knew we wanted to make a record about love, loneliness, and loss, and we did. We modeled that album after the Frank Sinatra record, A Man Alone, and the very last Billie Holiday record, Lady in Satin. Billie's voice then was shot. Nina's voice was shot. She mostly spoke, but she knew how to carry a tune still. You're not a pro that long, even when your voice is shot, and not know how to carry a tune. But we fixed stuff up in the studio when need be, so that it would really be so beautiful and perfect. And that I also felt she wasn't going to make any more records. And she didn't. This was her final full-length recording. Andre Fisher produced it. Andre was the drummer in Rufus.
Oh, wow.
At the time, he was married to Natalie Cole. And he made a beautiful, beautiful sounding record.
Yeah, the orchestration is
Oh, yeah.
awesome on that record.
Very somber, very beautiful. It was an exquisite recording. And I'm glad I got to say that I made her last recordings before she passed.
While you were at Geffen, you ended up signing White Zombie. Tell us how that came about.
Oh, gosh. I heard about White Zombie from my friend Daniel Ray, who at the time was producing the Ramones, working with Iggy. He was in this band, The Masters of Reality. He said, there's a little band I want you to see. So there's a restaurant on Lafayette Street called Indochine. Under Indochine, there was a dark room that they decided they're going to have rock bands in. So I go see White Zombie in this little room, and in the corner, in the back, in the dark, there was a band playing. It was noise. There were no songs. The dreadlocks were flying all over the place. And I thought, I love this noise. I'm going to make something out of these kids. So they finished the set, and I introduced myself to Rob Zombie. And I said, you got no songs, but we're going to do something because I love your energy. We're going to do something. He said, well, you know what? I'm going to be big, and I'm going to make films. And I said, I believe you. And I believed him. And the next thing you know, I signed them to Geffen Records.
And to this day, they are very popular. Even the younger generation has heard of them.
They were an incredible crossover.
And he's also doing films, horror films, right?
Rob Zombie makes horror films.
Yes.
So he lived up to the promise of everything he said to me, in the early 90s. Yes.
Stay tuned for part 2 of my interview with the legendary Michael Alago on our YouTube channel as we continue our conversation about music, the release of his documentary film, and the independent music scene. PlayMyMusic.fm, unleashing the unknown, unsigned, and unheard. We'll see you soon.